actually took. So I'm originally from a little town in Puerto Rico called Aguas Buenas. So we are not the mecca of technology. It is a very island feel, Caribbean kind of living, and island life is all there is to life in Puerto Rico. We do have some big industry on the island, but as a kid growing up, access to technology back when I was growing up wasn't something that was highly available to us. And so I was very lucky to, at the age of around 13, to be exposed to a computer, a personal computer, what you guys now call desktop. Mine was a very archaic kind of computer, but I learned my first programming language at 13. And at that time, the programming language was BASIC. So BASIC A, and basically it was a black screen, green text. And that really piqued my interest in technology as a whole at that really early age. Fast forward, I moved to the States to attend college. And because I was 18, I had a 4-month-old baby. I needed to get a job that would keep a roof over my head. I went and I completed a 18-month nursing certificate program for RN. So I became a nurse so I can pay my way through school. So I had to balance work and school for many years. My intention was always to get my computer science degree. It was a long path for me, being a young parent with a child, and there was a lot of stopping and starting, but I never gave up, and I ended up completing my bachelor's in computer science and getting a job. I was really lucky to have some good mentors that helped me along the way. People that provided me with some good advice and direction. A lot of them were educators, like my faculty. I had some good advisors. I also had some industry, people that were in the industry that were helping me along the way. I was able to make some good connections that way through like networking sessions. And so my first actual gig in IT was actually throwing cables, so networking cables. So I was the one who would crawl into crawl spaces and throw cables. So to network like buildings. And this is when this whole like network connection was becoming a thing, because prior to that we had like peer-to-peer networking where it was two computers just communicating with each other, but you couldn't really communicate like into a greater ring of computers. So with networking, I really was crawling into those little dirty crawl spaces, throwing cable and doing kind of the grunt work that no one wanted to do. But at the same time, it gave me the opportunity to work with some really great people. I did that for about, I want to say, a year, setting up networks, helping these companies understand like what are the benefits of a network and how could they leverage it. At that time, the internet wasn't really a thing. We had, AOL, where you pop the disk in and you can get on dial-up. We had news groups where you use like a floppy disk and you connect it through your phone line. And as technology advanced, right, like when you think about it, technology has advanced over the past 2 decades so much that it's mind-blowing. After, I kind of paid my dues, and I allowed myself to learn the ropes with some really great people, I landed my first like true gig as a systems engineer, where I ended up managing a whole network for a large organization that was actually overseas. So there was a station here in the U.S. and I managed the overseas network connections. And that was a really great experience, right? Because it was something I had not done. I was nervous, I remember, but I jumped into it with 2 feet, and I allowed myself to learn the ropes. So I've worked with some really good companies over the years, and with each company that I've worked with, I have learned something new, right? So I think that if I'm going to give you guys any kind of advice, is to um, not be afraid to try something new, right? Um, so today I am employed by Amazon, and I'm on this cloud journey where I'm trying to take all you guys down also, because as I mentioned, technology has advanced so much just in the past 2 decades. And if you look at it from like the 70s on, there has been more growth in technology over the past 40 years than there has been in the past 100 years of like the invention of the car and things like that. So when you think about like technology and the advances, the real first piece of technology, like a wired technology that existed, was the light bulb, right? That's the one thing that, when you think about it, the light bulb was like personal computers and people and in the homes, right? Not like a person's home. So when the light bulb was invented, everyone started getting light bulbs and screwing these light bulbs in and getting like electricity in their houses, right? So their houses had to be wired for electricity. The same kind of explosion happened with personal computers, right? So once people figured out that personal computers were something that they could use in their homes, and that it actually had a purpose, it just kind of exploded, right? So today we don't think about light bulbs. Today, when you need a light bulb, you kind of sit there and you're like, oh, the light's out, I need to change that bulb, right? Nowadays, a lot of people don't think about their computers. Like, you turn it on, you kind of instinctively know that, okay, I'm going to turn this on, it has a keyboard, I'm going to play with it, right? And if you think about other gadgets that we use, this has become the new computer, right? So, and this has not been around that long. So cell phones haven't really been around that long. I'm going to date myself. So I had a a bag phone for my car back in the 90s. So it was kind of this big bulky phone in a bag that I would take around and plug it into like my lighter, and it would power the phone, and I could make phone calls from it. And the service was really expensive. So like to make like you could call someone and be like, I'm on my way, and you had to hang up, right? So when you think about technology and just like I can go on with stories like that. Um, the newest technology that everyone's talking about right now is cloud, right? And everyone's like, cloud, like it's a fad, and is it really gonna trend, or is it something that's going to change? And I'm going to tell you that cloud computing is going to become like the light bulb and like your laptops and your cell phones. In fact, it has already become that, because people have been using it before they started like really learning about it, right? So we took it for granted. So I'm sure most of you have used Netflix, right? I'm sure most of you have used services like Dropbox. If you have an iPhone, you're storing your items in the cloud. If you're using an Android, you're storing it in the cloud also. There's a bunch of like these cloud drives that you can store information on, and if your computer fails and you've saved your files to the cloud, you know that those files, you'll be able to get them again. And it's become kind of this thing where we use it without really thinking about it. And so, I got into cloud computing, I want to say, I think it's been about 5 years now, because I started doing some development in virtual reality and augmented reality. And so, you have to host your files somewhere so it's accessible to users who are going to experience your virtual reality solution. And we had experimented with like putting our virtual reality files onto a server that was hosted like in an office, and then having people connect that way. And the latency was really bad, and people were getting like vertigo. So with virtual reality, your eyes have to adjust to the frame rate of the media that's being presented. And if there is any lag in that media, it causes vertigo, and it causes people to get dizzy and just like have really bad experiences with it. So we decided that, there had to be a better way to host our virtual reality media files. And this is way before my Amazon days. We decided that we were going to put our files up on a virtual server, so a cloud server, somewhere up in the ether, but that it was going to be accessible, and it was going to have like a faster download rate for people to actually experience it. So when you think about things like that, and the impacts it has on like our users, and also on business, and just everyday life, right? So I'm sure how many of you, and I don't know if you can feel free to go off mute, but how many of you are gamers? Any gamers on the call right now? Okay, we have one that will admit to it, all right? Okay, one that I can see. How many others? You can go off mute and just answer. Okay, so when you think about gaming, right? So you have your system in your home, or connected to your TV and stuff, right? And you know that when you're gaming, like directly, like you have a direct connect to that system, and you're playing, and you have really good graphics and really good speed and stuff. When you decide to go and play like a game that's in the cloud, right? Depending on the service that you're using, wherever that game is hosted, right? If you're not downloading a file to your computer, there may be some lag in that gameplay. So the cloud has a lot of benefits just in your everyday life, as I mentioned, right? So I love Netflix. I love Prime Video. I'm a cord cutter, so I don't have cable. I have just an internet connection, and that powers everything that I have in my house, right? Down to my Echo devices, to my TV, to how I access shows and stuff. So going back to this cloud journey, when you think about the virtual reality I was just talking about, those files we decided to host those files in the cloud, and we found that we were getting better user experiences by having these files be web-based and be accessible via the web. And we were able to adjust like frame rates and kind of our data downloads to ensure that we were getting good user experiences. And so that's kind of where I launched into like trying to learn more about like the cloud, and it was more to figure out like how can I make it work to my advantage so I can do more with it. And like I said, 3 years ago, I joined Amazon, and a year ago I became the technical content lead for the cloud degree, and on AWS Educate, I am on the content team. And what we do is we offer resources for you guys to learn about the cloud, because right now, like cloud jobs are on the rise. If you looked on LinkedIn, some of the skills, like the top 5 skills, 2 of them are cloud skills. So I know that blockchain hit #1 this year, and blockchain is basically a cloud-based solution. And then they have cloud computing skills, which is general cloud computing skills. So you need to have general cloud computing skills to be able to understand blockchain. So I'm going to share with you really quick. So this is our I'm screen sharing, and this is the AWS Educate website. And if you guys aren't already registered members with AWS Educate, it's free, and we give you promotional credits so you can use the AWS Management Console to be able to play around with services. So this is a lot of the content that's on here. I've contributed to some of it. I've worked with some really great people who have written a lot of this content. We have a lot of people on the AWS team who are rock stars at kind of using the cloud and understanding use cases for it. And so I would say this is a great place for you to start learning about the cloud. We do have for you guys, I'm going to walk through this. So I wanted to share a little bit about my background, but I wanted to share some of the benefits of using AWS Educate. But before I do that, I want to know, do you guys have any questions? Since I gave you a long-winded background. Okay, so let's dive into this site here. So this is AWS Educate, and you can get to it by typing just awseducate.com. It'll bring you to this portal. You can explore the portal from here without registering. There's some information in here for students. You get free access to resources, learn about the cloud in general, and understand what are some of the use cases for the cloud. So one of the things that I think that a lot of people tend to underestimate, like the tech savviness that most people have. You can do some really cool stuff with the AWS platform. You can use it to build your own apps. You can use it to experiment with creating content and games. You can create a virtual reality solutions. You can play around with IoT. There's a bunch of different things you can launch right from the AWS Educate platform without having to worry about like, oh, I need to get a regular AWS account and enter a credit card. We want you to experiment and learn. So when you do go out into the field, you'll be able to do the things that that are needed by employers, but also that you'll bring something that is of high value to the table. So I'm going to log in here really quick as a student. Let's see if I can remember my student password. Don't fail me now. Okay, this is bad. Always when you go on screen, you forget something. All right, let me look up this password really quick, guys. Give me a second. And if you have questions, please feel free to post them.
It looks like you forgot your password.
Yes, I have forgotten my student password, so let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to actually go into, so as a student, you'll get access to the AWS Educate, to the AWS Management Console using Educate. So we'll issue you this starter account, and you'll have a AWS account tab. So when you click it, it's going to launch you directly into this portal called Vocarium. And down here, you'll have this AWS console button. So this is going to launch you directly into the AWS Management Console. There's a lot here, and I encourage everyone to explore this because you can experiment and explore a lot of the services that we have available, such as, you know, how to create a blockchain, how to use S3, which is our storage solution, where you can store files. You can host a static website using S3. You can explore databases. You can explore Amazon Sumerian, which is our AR and VR solution. This is a lot of fun to play around with if you haven't already done that. You can experiment with machine learning. There's a lot on the screen. And so what I always tell people is go through and just, I know it can be overwhelming, but go through and just look through these services. Now, the cool thing is that because you have a student account, you don't have to enter a credit card to use any of these services. We issue you a promotional credit and you can go in here and play around. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you the pathways that you guys will have access to. So these career pathways are available for you to take. So we have had people who have completed all of the pathways and then have put that on their resume and been able to put it on their resume and have been considered for jobs. So I see that someone raised their hand. So does someone have a question?
Yes, I was trying to find out where your chat button is so I could type to you.
Yeah, so I was not able to find the chat pane either. So can one of the instructors please, or faculty members, please let us know where the chat, if there's a chat pane or not?
My question actually was, can you show us how, can you go through and do a registration, a student registration, so we could see the steps?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely can do that. Let me close all of this. Let me log out of here. Okay. So when you go to awseducate.com, I know up here it says AWS Amazon, but if you just type awseducate.com, it'll take you to this portal. So one thing that where students get confused is they see this sign into the console. You don't want to do that because that will prompt you to enter a credit card and all that other jazz. What you want to do is you want to go down here and click on join AWS Educate. And you're going to join as a student. And then you're going to enter your name and the country you're in. I actually typed in the wrong. You're going to type in your school. Okay, so your graduation month and year are going to be important because if you're graduating spring of next year, I would put December of 2021 so you have time to remove files. So instead of making it mid-year, do it at the end of the year because it'll give you time to ask for us to transfer your files to your regular account or for you to download any kind of work that you've done. So I'm going to put here 2021. I'm going to change it to December. I'm going to say I'm graduating next year. And then you're going to put in your birth date and month. Date myself here. And you don't have to enter a promo code. You're going to hit the I'm not a robot, so the CAPTCHA, and then just click next. And because I already have an Educate account, it won't let me go through. But once you click next, what you're going to do is you're going to get an email confirmation. And in that confirmation, there's going to be a link that you'll need to click. And that's the final step for verification of like your application. Then it'll take about 2 to 3 days for your application to be reviewed and approved. So all applications are reviewed by the AWS Educate team to ensure that you're actually who you say you are and that you're associated with a legitimate school, because we do issue you promotional credits for use of the AWS Management Console. We need to make sure that you are who you say you are. So any questions on this process?
So you said enter your school. I see. Oh, AWS is a school.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm not associated with a school. I just entered AWS, but you would put your school name in here.
Okay. I'm with Workforce. No, is it Workforce Development at Delgado? And I'm not sure if this is gonna work. Is this gonna work for me as well?
Yeah. Do you have so you have to use your Delgado issued student email address. Do you have that?
I didn't know. We never did. We were never given that email address.
Hi, this is
So
Tracy.
how to go about getting an email address?
Hello.
Hi, Tracy.
Hey, sorry. So workforce students are not issued a Delgado email address, so I don't think you would have that opportunity. Maybe speak with workforce to see if there's any way that they can issue you one, but up to right now, they don't issue one.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll still stay on for the rest of the call. Then it'll still be valuable, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say work with your workforce people to see if there is a way for you to get a Delgado email address, because we do require an institution email address for students.
That's right.
For this, how long is I'm just curious. So how long is the workforce program? Are you attending classes?
Just 6 months at a time. Right now, we're working on certifications.
Okay.
And Dr. Baldwin, she's on the call. She invited our class to the call. Maybe she can put some insight to that question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Dr. Baldwin. During last fall, through Capital One Foundation, we were able to offer a cybersecurity training for students. And during that time, they received training in IT fundamentals, Network Plus, and Security Plus. And so as we follow through and follow up with them this semester, we're giving them information on any learning opportunities that might be available. So I invited them to listen in today.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. I think that's great. I think that as far as getting them into the Educate platform, we can discuss that offline to see what we can do.
Okay.
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 Excuse me, this is Tina, and I work in the IT department at Delgado, and we currently do not assign any workforce students email addresses. So, and I don't know what the plan is for that.
Okay.
I'm just sharing that with you.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry, this is Tracy again. So I'll definitely bring that up when we have our cloud meeting.
Okay.
But it is just that workforce courses are considered non-credit, and so the email addresses are only given to students taking credit courses. That's the problem.
Okay, that's fine. And so this is something that we can actually take offline, because we should figure out how we can get them access.
And we actually did receive credits for our class. It should be 9 credits that we received. So if you guys could, let us know how that plays into, the fact that we do have credit. How does that make a difference while you guys checking it out? It would be appreciated.
We'll definitely talk about it offline.
All right, thank you.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, because I want to get into my student account really quick and not have to make you guys watch me go through this. But are there any other questions? That was a legitimate, question that was brought up, and I appreciate you guys, addressing that with your students, and I'll do whatever I can on my end to help. So do we have any other questions? Okay, so I am going to try to reset my password over here for my student account. And while I do that, I am going to log back in and take you through student pathways. So you can see kind of the content that you have access to. All right, I'm going to share again. Okay, so let's talk about these pathways. So the pathways are self-guided pathways that you have access to. And what they do is they introduce you to one of the job families that we have listed here. There's also this Cloud Computing 101 that gives you a really good foundation into cloud computing. They're all self-guided, self-directed. You can stop and start wherever you need to. You don't have to sit through the entire thing in one sitting. You can, schedule some time to sit down and complete whichever one that you're interested in. I always say start with the Cloud Computing 101 because it gives you a foundation. Then look into the different job families and decide where is it that you want to learn more about. I can tell you that right now, solutions architect and software development engineer and machine learning scientists tend to be the heavy hitters. And so these are pathways that, again, you'll earn a badge when you complete a pathway, and that will show up in your virtual portfolio here on AWS Educate. We also have badges. And so these badges are activities that you can complete. So we have it around gaming, Internet of Things. There's a startup badge. And as you complete these badges, you will earn this particular badge in your virtual portfolio also. Your student portfolio is something that here on AWS Educate, when you register for an AWS Educate account, that's something where you should put up your information. If you have a resume, throw it up there also, because we have a job board and you can make your portfolio visible to employers that are posting their jobs on AWS Educate. So they may be looking for someone who has some Alexa skill or someone who has some virtual reality, and they'll want to see, did you create, we want to look at all the people that completed like the Sumerian badge or all the people that completed an Alexa badge. It's a great way to look at internships or job opportunities if that's what you're looking at. We are going to be adding more badges, but these badges are really, they're really good sources of information. And you get to do some hands-on learning with them, which is the fun part. So you get to actually create something with it. We get asked a lot about like IoT, Alexa, and gaming by students and people that are looking for that kind of like direction. All of these badges use AWS services, so you'll learn how to use the services and how to create something with them. So any question on these? All right, so I am going to stop sharing for a minute because I want to see if I can open up one of these for you to play around with. Okay. So I'm going to show you kind of the Alexa badge. So how many of you have played around like creating Alexa skills yet? Have any of you been curious enough to do that, or have you tried creating any other kind of like IoT or something like that?
I never used use an Alexa thing. I never used an Amazon Home thing.
Okay.
My parents never afforded one.
Okay. So you actually, so there's a cool thing. So if you have a smartphone or even on your computer, you can use Alexa without having to have a device. So you can download the Alexa app to your phone. So if you create like an Alexa skill, you can test it right on your phone. There's an app, it's free. And so you can test it there. And it's a great way to play around with things. So what I'm going to show you, so here's the, this is the Alexa badge. And so even if you don't have a device, you can play around with like, how do you program an Alexa skill, right? That then you can share with everyone else. And this here takes you through the steps of like, what is Alexa and how do you create a skill? And it gives you some really good insights into like, what are some of the use cases for Alexa? What services can you use? I like to, when I introduce people to Alexa, I do it 2 different ways. So I will have them use the Alexa Skill Builder, or I will have them use Amazon Blueprints, just to help them learn the logic of building an Alexa skill. How many of you guys are familiar with Amazon Blueprints? I'm going
I'm
to show it
familiar
to
with
you guys.
Blueprints, but not Amazon. Revello, Oracle Revello. You familiar with them?
With which one?
Revello by Oracle.
No, I'm not familiar with Ravello.
Right. So if you're speaking, when you talk of blueprints, their blueprint setup is that someone will build a machine or a device, and they will put it in the cloud. And that blueprint can be used to create either environments or create virtual machines. Is that similar?
So the blueprints for Amazon is what I have on screen right now. It's more for building an Alexa skill. So it sounds like what you're talking about would be our like compute instances. So we have different instances where you can build a virtual machine, like using EC2, and you would do that directly through the Management Console.
EC2?
Yep. And so I'm happy to share some information on where you can learn more about EC2, especially for your workforce people, the workforce students. And for those students who have a Delgado email address right now, you can join AWS Educate and start learning there. But just to go over blueprints, this is Alexa blueprints. So it's Amazon Alexa blueprints, and you can create an Alexa skill really easy. And start using it as soon as you program it. And so these are a lot of fun to play around with to really start understanding like logic and design when you're thinking through a skill, right? An Alexa skill or a device skill. I know that Google has a similar kind of platform also. I don't know what their platform is called, but I do know that they have a similar platform where you can build some skills for their devices also. So I always recommend playing around with both platforms. Don't think that you just have to learn one platform and that's all there is. Like you should become versed in all the cloud platforms, at least being able to speak to them.
When you say skill, are you saying you're building a skill for Alexa, or the skill applies to the person building it?
The skill applies. So an Alexa skill is the actual like program that you build for Alexa.
Oh, okay. So Alexa gets more skills as you build on, you tack on these different
Yes.
yeah, blueprints
Yeah.
and own stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you also gain skills, right? So you're
Right.
also building your own skills as you're building these programs. So when I talk about an Alexa skill, I'm talking about a small program, like a microservice that you're building.
Mhm. Okay.
That's a great question. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So Blueprints is a great way to start learning about Alexa on your own. They're really easy to learn how to work through. I had my nephew who's 9 years old. He built a game skill for himself using Alexa Blueprints because it's just basic. It tells you where to enter the information, how to enter it, and what it needs. So it gives you really guided directions. And then it helps you also think about like, okay, so if I wanted to build a more complex Alexa skill, you can go into like the Alexa SDK, which is a software development kit to build a more robust program. So I always tell people start with baby steps and then build your way up. The Alexa badge that's on AWS Educate is another great way to start learning about it. We also have the IoT badges and other skill badges. So I just wanted to provide everyone with like a brief overview of Educate, and I'm going to open up for questions because I see that we're almost at the top of the hour.
I have a question for students who might be almost graduating or going to graduate like very, very soon, or once they graduate. Will they still have access to AWS Educate afterwards, or not at all?
So yeah, so if you have already registered as a student, your access is based on the graduation date you entered. That's why I suggest like if you're graduating in 2021 or 2020, right? Let's say you're graduating 2020, you should put your graduation date to be December, so that way you have access through December. Because you'll need access to your Delgado email address to continue to access the platform.
I think I got my workaround.
So, any other questions? So Tracy?
Yes.
Do you guys have any other questions? I see we're almost at the top of the hour.
Well, our sort of standard question for the Career Speaker Series is a reflection question for you. So it's a three-parter. So we ask, who were you when you were like 3 months past graduating from high school? Who are you now, and where do you want to go? Because we like for our students to sort of see what your journey has looked like and, you know, where you're planning on going. So if you could answer that in a minute or less.
Yeah, definitely. So who was I before I graduated high school? Man, that was so long ago. So I was ambitious, right? I had wanted to attend an Ivy League college because I would have been I'm the first person in my family to graduate college. So I was the first person to get a bachelor's degree, the first person to get a master's degree. So I think at that very young age, I was just really ambitious, and I was kind of I thought I owned the world, right? What was the next reflection? Was it after, or where am I now?
Now, and where do you want to go?
Okay, so where I am now, I'm at Amazon, right? Like I think for me, it's like I won. The ambitious paid off. But no, so I am where I need to be right now because I have a platform to empower other people, and that's really important for me. I want to see more people that look like me out in the industry. So that's my goal, right, is to empower others to do that. And then future wise, like I do want to continue helping people to get exposed to technology, and and providing access to people that don't have access right now, right? Because we know that, I don't know if you know this, but only like 52% of people in the United States have access to the internet. And that to me is mind blowing, right? Because with all the advances in technology, why do only 52% of the population have access to the internet? So that needs to change. And I would love to have part in trying to figure out how can we, help people get access.
Right. Agreed.
So.
Well, Claude, do you have anything else?
On my end, I think we're good. If no one else has any other questions, then we'd like to say thank you so much, Myra, for agreeing to come and speak for our speaker series and for telling us about all the stuff that our students could do and get into. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I hope that, I know I felt like I was all over the place. But I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and I hope that, I was able to at least turn you on to something. And I hope to be able to help you with giving your workforce students access to the Educate platform also.
Yeah, thank you, Myra. I mean, you always give good information, and you are an example of where people who look like you can go. So just thank you for being you and existing and doing what you do.
Thanks. All right, guys. So I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Myra.
All right. Thank you.